So there are a few videos out there that show the cam timing, specifically the Volkswagen variable valve timing, but they're either way too long or they don't really show the parts in person and how they work. So this is the cam adjuster. Let me just take it apart and show you how it works. So there are these 5 screws right here, and once you take them off, this front cover will come off. And if you're gonna do this, please be careful that you don't lose anything in here. So once this comes off, there's this little cap and the spring. And then inside there, there's a little pin. So essentially, this piece, here, let me just take it apart real quick and then I'll show you how it works. There's this piece, and there's this piece, and the bottom piece. So in the bottom piece, you'll see this little cutout, and that is for the little pin that sits in here. So that cutout is basically a seat for this pin, and let's see, it'll sit in there like that, and that will lock the cam adjuster in place in the fully retarded position. The way that that works is the pin goes through here, and that goes on there. So when that pin's in there, that cannot rotate. This is actually locked to the camshaft. So this part is what is actually on the camshaft, and this whole piece underneath it will rotate. So it cannot rotate if that pin is sitting in that seat. And the way that that comes up off of the seat to allow rotation is there's a tiny little oil hole right there on the side, and once oil pressure is applied in there, it lifts the pin, which lifts it out of its seat in this piece, which then allows the whole thing to rotate. So I'll show you real quick. And if you are taking this apart, you should know that there's this little square piece, this little cutout right there, that should be facing outwards. That little cap goes on top. It's really hard to get it perfectly in place. The screws, the 5 little bolt screws go in here. So they go through the cover, then they go through that little hole, and then they go through the other side right there. So then that means that this piece is locked onto the bottom piece with the gear, which is locked to this. So this, and the bottom piece are all locked to each other, and the only other piece is this guy, which rotates independently. And again, this doesn't really rotate. It's the other 3 that rotate, because this part is actually locked onto the camshaft. As you can see, that cannot move right now because that pin is in place. But with that pin out, and hopefully I didn't just lose my spring, here it is. With that pin out, this guy can now rotate. So this is what allows the cam adjustment to happen, and this rotation occurs when, if you can see right there, those little oil holes in there, once those are filled, that fills either this chamber or this chamber. So all of the top holes right there, that hole, you see another one, another top one, another top one. So there's 4 holes on top, and those go to these 4 chambers right here. This one, this one, this one, this one. If you were to fill up all those top holes, that would fill up all of these chambers right here, causing that kind of rotation. But then if you were to fill up all of the bottom holes instead, that would then cause this kind of rotation, like that. So this is fully retarded, and then as you go like that, you'll advance your timing. And again, if that pin is sitting in that seat in the bottom piece, it'll be locked in its fully retarded position like that. You do need oil pressure in that little oil hole to unlock the pin, and I can show you real quick how that works by applying some air pressure in there. Okay, so I have the pin in here, and I have the spring right there, and I'll just cap this like that. So when I apply oil pressure into that hole right there, you'll see that piston rise, and then when I let it go, you'll see that it comes right back down where it is right now because the spring is pressing down on here. So as you can see, oil pressure allows that to unlock, and then a lack of oil pressure locks it back in place. Yeah, thankfully I didn't just blow this little piece away from doing that demonstration. So the reason I had to open all this up in the first place is because I got a bunch of metal shavings in through those holes when I had to drill out the bolt that holds this onto the cam. That bolt stripped. It actually didn't even strip. The bolt's teeth literally sheared off when I tried removing it, and you guys can see that in my other videos when I'm trying to take it out. But yeah, the bolt literally had its teeth sheared right off. So then I had to drill the bolt out, and then I wasn't even thinking, and you know, all these little oil holes got metal shavings in them, which means that all the chambers got metal shavings in them. So I just opened everything up and cleaned it all out, and I did get confirmation from someone who's done this a bunch of times before that there's no problem doing this. So the way that those oil holes get oil pressure is this cam cover or end cover, cam housing, goes by a lot of different names. This sits on the right side of the engine or the right side of the head like this. This is where your high pressure fuel pump goes, and this right here is where your vacuum pump goes. So this is the solenoid right here. This is the cam adjuster solenoid. Right there is where the oil pressure is directed to go in either the back holes or the front holes. So this guy is in the cam, rotating on the cam, and this goes right over that and sits inside there. And you can see, hopefully you guys can see that right on that piece there's an oil hole right there. There's another one down in the next channel. So there you should be able to see the top hole and the bottom hole. So it looks like this right here is the main oil channel, and you'll get some nice oil pressure coming right in here, and then it'll come out either that hole or that hole depending on the voltage that your ECU is sending the solenoid right here. It'll either redirect the oil to come out of that hole or that hole, depending on whether it needs to advance or retard the timing. And that's really as much as I can show you right here. But let me just throw a couple of these screws in right now and then show you over on the car, over on the head, what that actually does. With no oil pressure, this really should be in its locked position. So if you can only just like barely jiggle it, that's completely normal. I took the pin out so that it can't lock into that fully retarded position. So I'll be able to get full rotation on this. So if we come over here to the head, we'll see my exhaust cam right here. Little cutout on the end of the cam will mate into that little pin right there. There's only one way to install this, and you can't mess it up. So that goes in there like that, and I should probably stick the bolt in loosely just so it doesn't fall out when I'm demonstrating this. But essentially, this is it locked in the cam. So all of this rotation is the cam adjustment that your car will allow. The cam is not moving at all, as you can see. So this is all the adjustment that your car can make. But as you can see, Let me take this back off so I don't drop it. The timing between the bottom end and the exhaust cam has to be fixed because there's a timing belt that is directly connected between the exhaust cam sprocket and the crankshaft gear. That means that the exhaust cam technically does not have any adjustment in it. And I'll actually throw this over onto my old head just to demonstrate this real quick. I don't really want to mess up the new head. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, this adjustment isn't changing anything with the exhaust cam. The exhaust cam is still locked into place onto the timing belt, which is going to be right on here. So here we now have the cam chain installed, and there's actually a tensioner that'll go right here. That looks like that piece right there. So here, as the oil fills those channels, the chambers inside the camshaft adjuster are filled. So this is the fully retarded position. This will be advancing the timing like this, which doesn't move the exhaust cam, but does move the intake cam. So you can see the entire intake cam is shifting. The engine moves clockwise. On the crankshaft right here will move clockwise, which means that this will move this way, which means that this moves this way. That since the camshaft is going this way or counterclockwise from our orientation, the variable valve timing on this car allows for intake timing only, no exhaust timing, and it only allows for timing adjustments and no lift adjustments. So this lack of exhaust timing and lack of lift adjustment means that aftermarket cams will provide a big benefit. So that's what I got right here. This is a stage 2 cat cam. Hopefully this will allow for better low end torque and much quicker turbo spool. Alright guys, hopefully you like this video. If you want to see more of my build, please subscribe. Yeah, I'm hoping to help as many people as I possibly can with this channel, and hopefully you guys seeing me doing stuff myself will motivate you guys to do things yourself, because I don't really know what I'm doing and I'm learning it as I'm going. Yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next one.